Então a gente está lançando oficialmente hoje. E o Videocamp é o nosso apoiador do Festival Infinito. E o endereço, eu vou até pedir para quem puder colocar aí no chat, é www.videocamp.com, tá bom? Então a gente vai falar sobre isso e depois eu tenho uma novidade também sobre essa discussão. Vocês acham que vai acontecer um Cineclube da Morte falando sobre Noite Adentro? O que vocês acham?
That I don't know.
Helen, eu queria começar pedindo para você contar sobre o documentário. A escolha dos personagens, o que une as falas. Existe uma linha comum um pouco sobre esse documentário, sobre tudo isso?
Yeah, I mean, it really, in some ways, is a gallery of existential portraits of people, men and women of all ages and professions, who have been shocked into mortality. Each of them, whether through a bad diagnosis or the death of a loved one or through a temperament, just open to questioning, will have a different relationship to death. And it no longer will be the theoretical, I know that one day I must die, but it's visceral. I will die. And they're all facing the same question, though answering it very differently. What for me is the narrative of solace that will sustain me or not? And many narratives sort of disappear in the face of such urgent questioning, and others don't. So that's what unites all of them. That's the golden thread that unites all of them. These are men and women, believers, unbelievers, all ages, who suddenly, for varying reasons, are confronted by mortality and have to ask the question, how do I live with death in my eye? So.
Perfeito. E por que você fez esse filme? O que te atraiu nesse tema que pode ser tão desafiador assim? Por que esse tema?
Well, just before I truly answer it, I have to say it is a question that all of my friends have asked me, and strangers ask me, even at cocktail parties, and of course I've asked myself. I came off of a film that took me almost 4 years on a big subject, forgiveness and unforgiveness, and I traveled throughout the world, from the killing fields of Rwanda to divorce courts in New York City, and I vowed to myself that I was going to choose something small, a small containable subject. I could shoot it in my living room, and lo and behold, I take this big behemoth on mortality, and I think there's sort of the most honest answer, which come in parts, is that, first of all, I'm of that age. I am a baby boomer, and friends around me have died. My editor of 30 years, my beloved editor and best friend, died in the middle of this film. The film is dedicated to him. So that, and the questions were alive for me and urgent. And there's a wonderful, wonderful line in a poem that is quoted in the film by Philip Larkin: "Death is the roar underneath everything." And I felt that roar. I really did. And then secondly, to know my work, as obviously I know it and some other people do, this is the culminating question that's been at the edges of all my films. And even though the subjects are so varied, from youth gangs to Richard Avedon to Pope John Paul II to forgiveness to 9/11, there is this undersong of existential questioning that permeates all of them. And, why do we get up in the morning? What is of ultimate value? Why must we die? And this film really allowed me to ask the question that all too often, not only I, but most people have turned away from. How do we live knowing that we will die? And I felt it was time to sort of ask that question nakedly. And as a documentary producer, you have this wonderful camouflage. You can ask You can ask the question unfiltered because you're a documentary producer, but you're asking it for yourself as well. So that really was, it was of that time in my life. Friends were dying, and it seemed to be where all my work was heading, to this final bow, in a sense, is to ask those questions and to have the privilege of really being with hundreds of people. My little team and I spoke to really so many people who had just had the knowledge or were encountering these questions, and what a privilege that was.
Que privilégio mesmo.